Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise and really get into some impactful ideas. And today we are dissecting a book that honestly really changed the game for how we think about social change. That's Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point.
Oh, yeah, a huge one. Came out back in 2000.
Right. And it pulls from, well, everywhere, doesn't it? Yeah. Psychology, sociology, behavioral economics. It just made us rethink how trends suddenly explode.
Absolutely. He gave us a new language for it.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to explore Gladwell's core idea. You know how stuff, ideas, behaviors, trends spreads almost like a disease, kind of invisibly bubbling under the surface.
Until, bam, it hits that critical mass.
Exactly, the tipping point, that
Yeah.
famous phrase. So we'll break down his three main rules for figuring out what makes something go viral.
Yeah, the law of the few, the stickiness factor, and the power of context.
Okay, so Gladwell starts with this analogy, comparing social trends to, like, biological epidemics.
He does. And he argues there are basically three key factors, these sort of rules, that decide if an idea tips. He calls them the social epidemic rules. So first up, like you said, the law of the few. This idea that, well, a few specific types of people do most of the heavy lifting in spreading something.
Okay.
The number two is the stickiness factor. The message itself. It just has to stick, right? It needs to be memorable, engaging.
Makes sense.
And third, the power of context. This is all about the environment, the timing, the situation. It has to be right.
Okay, let's unpack this law of the few a bit more then. It sounds pretty crucial to his whole argument. Who are these people Gladwell's talking about?
Right. It's not just anyone influential. He gets really specific. He identifies three types of people who are, like, essential. First, you've got the connectors. Think of them as social hubs. People with just massive networks. But it's not just the number of people they know.
Okay.
It's that they know people across lots of different groups. They're the bridges. If you want an idea to jump from one social world to another, you need a connector.
Ah, okay. Like links between circles.
Exactly. He uses Paul Revere as an example. Revere's ride worked not just because of the message, but because he was super connected across different colonial groups. And people trusted him. He was kind of a maven, too, actually.
Interesting overlap there. So mavens are the second type.
Yep, mavens. These are your information sponges. They love digging up knowledge, understanding things deeply, and crucially, they love sharing it. They're motivated to help, to educate others.
The ones you ask when you need advice on something specific?
Precisely. Gladwell mentions a guy, Mark Alpert, as a sort of stock market maven, someone who just knows the ins and outs and enjoys telling people about it.
Gotcha. And the third type?
Salesmen. These are the persuaders. They have this charisma, this infectious energy. They can sway people, change minds, often not just with logic, but with their tone, their body language, their sheer belief.
The natural influencers?
You could say that.
What's really fascinating, though, is Gladwell's point that you often need the right combination of these people, or the right person at the right time. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing for making an idea tip.
Right. Right. So it's not just about shouting loudest. It's about who is doing the talking and who they're talking to.
Exactly. Finding the right people can make or break whether something takes off or just disappears.
Okay, so that covers the people. But then there's the message itself, this stickiness factor. I find this part really interesting. Why do some messages just lodge in your brain while others vanish?
Yeah, this is critical. It's all about the quality of the message. Its inherent memorability. Does it spark curiosity? Is it surprising? Does it hit you emotionally? Does it tell a good story?
So how the message is packaged.
Pretty much. Gladwell uses some great examples, particularly from kids' TV, which is surprisingly insightful.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Well, think about Sesame Street. Its huge success came from very deliberately mixing education with entertainment. They use repetition cleverly, even though some psychologists at the time were like, maybe don't do that.
Yeah, I remember the songs repeating.
And it worked. Then he points to Blue's Clues, which took that stickiness idea even further. They slowed the pace way down, used even more repetition, and built in direct viewer participation.
Right, the pauses for kids to answer.
Exactly. These seem like maybe small tweaks, but Gladwell argues they had a massive impact on how much kids engaged and actually learned, how much the show stuck with them. It's about crafting an experience that embeds itself.
That's fascinating. Small changes, big impact.
And actually tied into stickiness and how ideas spread within groups, he touches on something called the rule of 150 later on.
The Dunbar number thing.
Yeah, that idea that humans kind of have a cognitive limit to how many stable social relationships they can maintain around 150 people. Organizations function best, ideas spread efficiently when people actually know each other. Go beyond that number in a single unit. and communication, connection. It tends to break down. Stickiness suffers.
Okay, interesting link there. Let's move to the third rule then, the power of context. This feels, well, maybe even more relevant today with social media and everything. How much does our environment dictate what we do?
Oh, massively. Gladwell argues context can often trump individual personality. Our behavior is heavily influenced by our surroundings, by the situation, sometimes in ways we don't even realize. Even small environmental cues matter.
What's his big example for this?
The classic one he uses is the huge drop in crime in New York City back in the mid-90s.
Right, the broken windows theory.
Exactly. The police started cracking down on minor stuff, fare evasion on the subway, graffiti, squeegee men, things that signaled disorder.
And the idea was fix the small signs of decay.
And it sends a signal that order is valued, that rules matter, which then has a ripple effect on more serious crime. And crime rates plummeted. It suggests that the context, that feeling of order or disorder, is incredibly contagious.
Wow, so changing the environment changed behavior on a huge scale?
He also brings in evidence from social psychology. Things like the famous Stanford prison experiment run by Philip Zimbardo.
Oh boy, that one.
Yeah, pretty notorious. It showed how quickly normal people could slip into a assigned roles guard or prisoner and act totally out of character, sometimes cruelly, purely based on the context they were put in.
Shows the power of the situation, doesn't it?
Definitely. And studies on the bystander effect, too, why people are less likely to help someone in distress when others are present. Again, the social context overrides individual inclination.
So context isn't just the physical place, but the social signals too.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to that rule of 150 again, but applied more broadly to context. Gladwell discusses it in Chapter 5, really focusing on group size and social bonds.
Right, the 150 limit on stable relationships.
Yeah. He uses the example of Gore Associates, the company that makes Gore-Tex. They intentionally keep their office buildings capped at around 150 people.
Really? Why?
To maintain that close-knit feel, keep communication flowing, ensure everyone sort of knows everyone else. They believe that beyond that size, efficiency drops, bureaucracy creeps in, and that essential stickiness of company culture starts to fade.
So the context of the group size itself is critical.
It seems to be. The big takeaway here is that just trying to scale something up, an idea, a company, whatever, without paying attention to the context, especially the social context of group size, can lead to real problems, maybe even chaos.
Okay, these three rules, few, stickiness, context, make a compelling framework. Can we look at a real-world example where you can really see all three coming together?
Yeah, definitely. Gladwell offers several case studies showing these epidemics in action, for better or worse.
Like what?
Well, he talks about some darker examples first, like suicide clusters that occurred in Micronesia. One very public suicide seemed to trigger a whole chain reaction, tragically making it seem almost socially acceptable or contagious within that specific context.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. And he discusses teen smoking in a similar way, not just about addiction, but about the social signals, the context of rebellion, peer influence. The few trendsetters make it seem cool, the stickiness is the image of rebellion, and the context is the peer group.
So these principles can explain negative trends too.
Absolutely. But the classic positive tipping point example he uses, the one everyone remembers, is Hush Puppy shoes.
Oh yeah, the suede shoes. I remember when they suddenly came back.
Exactly. They were basically dead in the early 90s. Sales were minimal. Then, almost overnight, boom.
So what happened? How did they tip?
Well, according to Gladwell, it started with the law of the few. A handful of, ultra-hip kids in downtown Manhattan, maybe Soho or the East Village, started wearing them. Maybe ironically, maybe as an anti-fashion statement. These were the trendsetters, maybe connectors or early adopter mavens within that specific scene.
Okay, the cool kids.
Right. Then comes the power of context. Because this was happening in those specific neighborhoods, hubs of fashion and culture designers and stylists noticed, the context amplified the signal. If it had happened somewhere random, maybe no one would have cared.
Ah, location, 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 even for shoe trends.
Kind of. And finally, the stickiness factor. Suddenly, Hush Puppies weren't just old man shoes. The message changed. They became cool, retro, ironic, a statement. That new meaning stuck.
And then the salesmen, maybe the fashion designers and media picked it up.
Pretty much. Designers put them in shows, articles got written, celebrities might have been seen wearing them. The message spread exponentially and sales went through the roof. It's a perfect storm example of all three rules working together.
That's a great illustration. Okay, so as we sort of pull this all together, thinking about the tipping point, what are the main things you think people should really take away from this deep dive?
I think there are a few core insights that are really powerful. First, this idea that small things can make a huge difference, but, and it's a big but, only if they are the right small things, timed correctly.
Not just any small change.
No. Second, think about ideas spreading like viruses. They need the right carriers, those connectors, mavens, salesmen, and they need the right conditions, the right context to really take hold. Third, influence isn't evenly distributed. It really is concentrated in the hands of a few key types of people. Understanding who they are is crucial if you want to spread an idea.
The law of the few again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, context is king, or at least incredibly powerful. Our behavior isn't fixed. It can flip based on surprisingly small changes in our environment or social situation.
Those are definitely powerful takeaways. Now, Gladwell's books are always huge bestsellers, super engaging, but they do get criticized sometimes, right? What are the main knocks against The Tipping Point?
That's fair to bring up. Yeah, there are criticisms. A big one is that he relies very heavily on anecdotes and case studies. They're compelling stories.
Super compelling.
But critics say he sometimes presents correlations as if they're proven causation. He tells a great story linking A to B, but the hard, peer-reviewed scientific proof establishing that link definitively isn't always there.
So maybe oversimplifying complex social phenomena for a good narrative.
That's another criticism, yeah. That he sometimes smooths out the complexities of sociology or psychology to fit his neat framework. It makes for great reading, but maybe lacks academic rigor in places.
Okay, that's important context too.
It is. But, even with those criticisms, the book's impact is undeniable. Its real strength is providing this incredibly accessible, memorable framework for thinking about how change happens. It gives people tools and a language.
So who should read this? Or who really benefits from understanding these ideas?
Oh, loads of people. Marketers, obviously understanding virality and word of mouth is gold. Social entrepreneurs trying to drive change. Educators thinking about how learning sticks.
Yeah.
Content creators, influencers trying to build an audience. Leaders trying to shape organizational culture. Honestly, anyone interested in why people do what they do. Psychology, behavior.
Yeah.
It touches so much.
Yeah, it really does feel broadly applicable. So, wrapping up, The Tipping Point. It's just a brilliant read, isn't it? A fascinating look under the hood of social change.
Totally. His storytelling, the examples he picks, those frameworks like the 3 rules, they just stick. No wonder it's been so influential.
It really has shaped a lot of conversations over the last couple of decades.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave people with. Even if you want to debate some of the specific science behind every single example, the core ideas themselves about key people, sticky messages, and the power of context, they feel intuitively right, don't they? And they're just incredibly useful for thinking about the world, widely applicable, like you said.
A very useful lens, even if it's not perfect. Well, we hope all of you enjoyed this deep dive into The Tipping Point. If you found this interesting, maybe learned something new, please do us a favor, hit that like button, maybe share this video with a friend or colleague who'd be into it, and definitely subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks for listening.